sound. Good vibrations all around. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Merry Christmas. Good morning. Hey, I know it's not Christmas yet. It's Christmas Eve. Throw it in the comments section. What's your favorite childhood memory from Christmas? What are some of the memories, a vivid memory, either from your childhood or a tradition that you still do, maybe from your childhood with your own family? Throw it in the comments section. Welcome back to the Conservative Cat Show. Today, we are going to be talking about a holiday that isn't Christmas. I mean, we're going to talk about Christmas a little bit and how it's superior to Kwanzaa, but really I'm going to talk about how Kwanzaa is fake and gay. It's fake and gay. So, you know, we're told to respect this holiday without questioning, hey, what is Kwanzaa? We're told to acknowledge it without truly understanding its origins. And I'm here to not defend Kwanzaa, but present you the facts. And once you see the facts, you're not going to want to defend Kwanzaa. And we're told, hey, you have to defend it. Okay, you have to defend this holiday. USPS, you have to, treat it at the same level as Christmas by giving out stamps. Like, that's what bothers me every year, every single time I go and send my Christmas cards. And I feel so bad if you didn't get a Christmas card from me. Some of my listeners, you get Christmas cards from me. You're not getting them this year. I'm heavily pregnant. We moved. I couldn't get them out this year. So I said, I'm not going to the post office, and I'm not going to enrage myself by looking at the Kwanzaa stamp. Every year they've got that stupid Kwanzaa stamp, and it makes me so mad. So this holiday, it appears, on government calendars. The holiday appears like in your corporate emails, and they acknowledge it. And then schools, they'll teach it as a heritage holiday. Your kids are being taught just complete outright falsehoods about this holiday. And, it'll be on the school calendar. And most Americans don't celebrate this. Most African Americans don't celebrate this. It's probably, do you know anybody who celebrates Kwanzaa? Throw it in the comment section. I don't know a single person who celebrates Kwanzaa. We're told that it's ancient and it's African and it's cultural. And above all, we're told questioning this holiday is wrong. But when you put Kwanzaa under a microscope, under some scrutiny, it all collapses. So today, Kwanzaa exists largely as an acknowledgement or acknowledged observance. I wouldn't say it's celebrated. It is not a deeply celebrated tradition, and that distinction matters. I think it's important that I talk about it today on the show, but you need to know that, like, maybe one or two people, like, in a distant circle, an acquaintance circle of yours might celebrate Kwanzaa. Largely, it's acknowledged. It's an acknowledged observance. So acknowledgement means it exists. Celebration means embracing it, promoting it, and elevating it to a place of honor. Okay. Now, I don't see a ton of that in America. However, I do see it a little bit. I just told you about me last weekend. We went to this really cool Festival of Light thing for Christmas. There was a petting zoo. I got to hold a baby kangaroo, which was really cool. Yeah, all the kids are going back to school and they're like, the kids, I'm like a 26-year-old woman and I was like, yeah, I want to hold the baby kangaroo. But all the kids that were in front of me, they were wanting to hold the baby kangaroo, and they had some pretty cool stories to tell when they come back from Christmas break at school. Hey, I got to hold the baby kangaroo. It was really cool. It was at this animal preserve, and we drove through and we saw the lights, and they actually had this Kwanzaa. It was very small in comparison, and I'll give the organization, the people who put this on, that. And it was like at the very end, it was like very dismissive of Kwanzaa. It was almost hilarious. But they still had like this little candle thing up to, kind of embrace the holiday. And I just want to tell you, you don't have to embrace it. You don't have to elevate it. Now you can acknowledge its existence. I don't think it should exist. And I'll get to why here in just a second. But what is Kwanzaa? Well, it runs from December 26th through January 1st. And it's organized around 7 principles. And I'll get to those principles in just a second. But they kind of like mimic Hanukkah in a sense, where they light a candle on something called a kinara. So there's 7 candles, and they light a candle from December 26th all the way to January 1st. And then families gather together, and then they read affirmations kind of tied to these 7 candles. So the 7 candles, and in Hanukkah, these candles have, Judeo meaning. They worship the God of Yahweh. We worship the God of Christ, Jesus Christ, and it is the same God, Yahweh, as Christians. Protestant Christians believe that, but Jewish people don't observe or recognize that God came in human flesh, Jesus Christ. But they've got Hanukkah, and a little bit later in this week, I'm going to break down what Hanukkah is, and from the Christian perspective, how we should view Hanukkah. But that's for a later show. They have something like called the Kinara. The 4 people that celebrate Kwanzaa. And what they do is they light a candle tied to unity, collective responsibility, cooperative economics. This is a political religion. It's weird. And we're going to get into each and every single one of those. And, the Jewish, what they light for the menorah, they light a candle, and these are sort of godly principles, joy, peace, these candles. And they're just in the face of Christianity, and anything that is moral and good. These candles slap that in the face. Okay. Unity, collective responsibility, cooperative economics. It all sounds good, but it's all political speak, and it's all Marxist bullcrap. So we'll get into that. But exposure to Kwanzaa doesn't happen in homes. It happens in schools, libraries, government buildings, museums, corporate diversity calendars. Okay, most people don't even practice the lighting of the candle. It's more acknowledged rather than celebrated and actually practiced. Most people who encounter Kwanzaa aren't actually celebrating it. It's not widespread. It's not multi-generational. There's no family traditions tied to it. I opened the show asking you what your Christmas tradition is. And you could probably think of, shared customs, passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. But there is no, with Kwanzaa, deep inherited cultural memory. Okay. And the reason for that is very simple. A very small number of Americans, a small percentage of Americans actually celebrate the holiday. It's fake, the holiday. It's not real. It has nothing to do with African culture. Swahili is the language that the word Kwanzaa is derived from, and that has nothing to do with the African. Swahili was not even a huge language in African American, ancient African American communities. So it's a very small percentage that celebrate Kwanzaa in a meaningful way. I want to make that clear. Even among Black Americans, I think it's like 1% of Black Americans observe it annually, 1 to 3. Okay. And many African Americans, Black Americans do not celebrate this. Okay. And Kwanzaa has to be treated honestly. And I think if we were to treat it honestly and tell people what Kwanzaa actually, like where its origins come from, what it's actually all about, people would not, send out the corporate email saying like Happy Kwanzaa. I think that it would be condemned. Kwanzaa would be treated the way it should be treated. And it's up to us. Knowledge is power. Hosea, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Yeah, we have to know what Kwanzaa is all about. Therefore, we can condemn it, and know that it should not warrant any kind of celebration. Now, like I said, right now, I don't think in America it's largely celebrated. I think it's largely acknowledged. Acknowledgement says that this exists, people observe it. No, I don't think people should even acknowledge its existence. I don't think it should be acknowledged at all. But celebration says this deserves honor, promotion, and cultural elevation. And you might get that. So, like, for example, when I was going through this Christmas light thing, that's like a promotion of it. They had a light up thing for Kwanzaa, said Kwanzaa on it, and then they had the Kanara with the candles, the 7 candles. That is a level of promotion that we should condemn and say, no, we don't even have to really acknowledge this holiday. And I'll get to why here in just a second. But I want to compare Kwanzaa to Christmas really quick. Christmas survives and has survived and is largely celebrated. Okay. And it is promoted. And just look at the fruit it produces. Okay. The fruit matters here. The holiday of Kwanzaa, there's like 1% of African Americans who celebrate it. And it's because it's largely fake and gay. Okay. That's really the reason why, because it's a crappy holiday. It's not real. And that's why you see nobody really celebrating it. And Christmas, on the other hand, is rooted in the incarnation, the belief that God entered the world through a vulnerable human being, a baby. Okay, the belief fundamentally changed how civilization understood human worth. And just look at the fruit. There's millions of people who celebrate Christmas. There's people who aren't Christians who celebrate Christmas. So you tell me, what's worthy of being celebrated, acknowledged? What holiday, Kwanzaa or Christmas? You've got quite literally secularists out there, no Christian beliefs whatsoever, and they celebrate Christmas. Okay, so God entering the world through a baby, a vulnerable baby, changed civilization and how we understood human worth. So before Christianity, hospitals as we know it, hospitals did not exist. In the ancient pagan world, really before Christianity took off, and they didn't care for their sick. Okay. even in Judaism, right? We read about this in the Bible where they casted out the lepers, and the people who were poor or chronically ill or disabled or contagious, they were often abandoned or even told to go live in certain areas quarantined. We know a little something about that COVID. They were abandoned, these people in this ancient world before Jesus Christ it came in the form of a baby. We didn't have a deep respect for humanity and the vulnerability of humanity. Okay, so medical care was really reserved for elites, soldiers, people who could pay. There was no moral obligation to care for the weak simply because they were human. Okay, Christmas changed that. God took on human flesh. I'm going to get so excited. I love Christmas. He took on human flesh. And once he did that, every human body mattered. Because God took on human flesh. He chose this. If Christ came as a poor little infant, a little baby, and poor, I mean, quite literally poor, not of elite means, Mary and Joseph. If Christ came as that, then, this changes our outlook on humans and the human body. The poor are not disposable. Jesus healed the sick while he was here. And, caring for the sick started to become a moral duty. So early Christians took this very seriously. During plagues, Christians, when pagan doctors fled cities, they during plagues or huge, they would flee. And Christians, they said, no, we're going to stay and we're going to nurse the dying during this plague. The early Christians did, and often it would cost them their own lives. So hospitals were born really out of Christmas. That's what I'm getting at here. And by the 4th century, Christians were founding the world's first true hospitals. Okay, permanent institutions dedicated to caring for the sick, the poor, the travelers, the disabled. They were they were being established by the 4th century. And one of the earliest were established by Saint Basil the Great. And that model kind of spread throughout Europe and kind of became what we know as hospitals today. So monasteries, they built infirmaries, churches funded hospices, nuns devoted their lives to caring for the sick. And the word hospital even comes from the idea of Christian hospitality. Okay, welcoming the suffering. So for centuries, hospitals were almost entirely Christian institutions. It's a little different today. They were attached to churches. Hospitals were always attached to churches. They were staffed by clergy or religious orders. They were funded by Christians, motivated by Christian belief. And really that legacy kind of continues into this modern era. And we see it. A lot of the hospitals are named like after, religious orders or denominations. Some of the most prominent hospitals today in the U.S., they were founded by Christian denominations, Catholics, Protestants, missionaries, because truly, after Christ Jesus was born, we had a totally different outlook on the human body. Because if Christ came, God chose the human body for his son and chose the human body to dwell among us, it really elevated our belief in the sanctity of life and how precious life is, human life is. Because Christians believe that serving the sick is serving Christ himself. Okay. That serving the sick is being like Jesus, going where Jesus goes, doing what Jesus does. That's what Christians believe. And the modern hospitals we know today really came out of Christmas. So Christmas taught civilization that bodies matter, suffering matters, being there for the suffering matters. The weak are not expendable, and compassion is something that we should strive for in Christianity. Okay, and we should show compassion to others. This worldview built hospitals. Okay, and this Christian worldview post Jesus built hospitals. I mean, this is in a belief in Jesus Christ coming as the incarnate God is huge. So Christmas, it doesn't rely on corporate emails for acknowledgement. Christmas doesn't rely on institutional reinforcement. It doesn't rely on corporate emails to survive. It doesn't rely on school lesson plans to be remembered. Kwanzaa, if we stop doing all of that, the HR bullcrap that you get from Kwanzaa, if we stopped elevating Kwanzaa, it would be forgotten within a week. Okay, no, if we stopped forcing it on people, it would not be remembered, celebrated, or even acknowledged because it's that insignificant. Christmas is lived. And we look at hospitals today, they were derived from the birth of Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ's works here on earth. So that's why there's a million Christmas songs. That's why there's tons of traditions that are inherited, passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. This Christmas, Jesus really reshaped law, charity, medicine, human dignity. Kwanzaa, by contrast, is instructional at best, and symbolic. And, their principles are explained. And a lot of people can't even explain their principles. Their rituals are kind of recited rather than passed down. So their principles are not remembered, and this acknowledgement of Kwanzaa is just so stupid. We should not be celebrating it at all. And the acknowledgement of Kwanzaa is just stupid because nobody really celebrates it. It celebrates it, and it's not lived. Christmas is lived. So society, whatever, if you're going to recognize Kwanzaa, whatever, I don't think you should, but definitely don't elevate it to the same cultural and moral standing as Christmas. Okay, this is just distortion. It's not tolerance. Elevating Kwanzaa to the same level as Christmas, that is not tolerance. It's just distortion. It's historically inaccurate. Christmas stands because it's earned its place in belief history, and it's so evident by the fruit. You have non-Christians celebrating Christmas. So that just goes to show you that Christmas is worthy of being celebrated, and Kwanzaa shouldn't be promoted. So, all right, let me get to the history of Kwanzaa, when it was created. Because once we start laying this out fact by fact, we're going to start to realize very quickly that Kwanzaa is fake and gay. So Kwanzaa was created in 1966. That's not centuries ago. That's not passed down through generations. It wasn't practiced across Africa. Okay, this is in 1966. Los Angeles is where Kwanzaa was born. Okay, think about that. 1966. Some of you, I don't know, maybe are listening to this show and you were born after 1966. Okay, so, or before 1966. So Kwanzaa is younger than you, right? So it's younger than the Super Bowl. Kwanzaa, it's younger than Star Trek. It's younger than the modern civil rights legislation. Okay, so it is not some sort of ancestral heritage type type holiday. And that alone should stop the conversation. The fact that it's originated in Los Angeles in 1966. Boom, stop with the BS. It's not African American heritage. It's not ancestral. Okay, this was created in 1966 by a guy named Ronald Everett McKinley. Now, later in life, McKinley renamed himself Mulana Karenga. Okay, so before we go any further, I have to explain why this guy renamed himself. Okay, because this isn't just a footnote. This is kind of central to the story. It goes to show you how arrogant this guy was. McKinley changed his name during the 1960s Black Power era, when radical activists were encouraged to reject their birth names. Okay, and they were instructed to and encouraged to renounce Christianity. They were encouraged to sever all ties with Western identity. And they were encouraged to rebrand themselves as ideological figures. Okay, so Mulana, I think I'm saying that right. He named himself after what that means, and I think it's Swahili, master teacher. So he called himself master teacher, and I'm sorry, but if you have to rename yourself and call yourself master teacher, you're probably not that great of a teacher. Okay. And Karenga, I think it just sounds African, and I couldn't really find the origins of that word, but I'm pretty sure he just kind of slapped on an African sounding word, because that's what they think about African Americans. They don't truly care about African Americans. They will, I just say, oh, well, that sounds pretty African. I'm going to slap that on as my last name. So this was a self-assigned ideological title that he gave himself. And his new name gave him authority and distance from accountability. Okay. And that's the big part of this is, you know, how sometimes criminals will go and get themselves a new identity and like do crimes under that identity. And they think that removes them or distances them from any sort of accountability. That's what this guy was doing. He was choosing this name to distance himself from accountability and to commit crimes under a fake name. Okay. So for the rest of the show, I'm going to call him by his real name. McKinley, okay, Ronald McKinley, Everett McKinley, because that's the name on his criminal conviction records. That's the name on his court records. That's the name of the man who committed these very heinous acts. Name changes do not erase responsibility. Okay, it's very similar in the trans movement. You'll say people change their name, and really what they want to do is just remove themselves from society, responsibility, and any kind of accountability over their own life. And that's why they really are attracted to the trans movement, because you can take on an identity and change your name, and anything that you do under this alias, it removes you from accountability of your own life, and you get to live in a fake world. Okay, so name changes, stupid. Okay, so McKinley, he was not a theologian. He was not a cultural historian. He was a radical political activist, and he was deeply influenced by Marxism, Maoist revolutionary theory, racial collectivism, and he openly rejected Christianity, Western civilization, American institutions, and capitalism. He rejected all of this. And he founded the U.S. organization, but it's not U.S., United States. It's US organization. That's what it was called, the US organization. And what this organization was all about was separating Black people away from the rest of society. And it was an us versus them type organization. Very racist. Okay. And this is explicitly separatist, and collectivist. Okay. And Kwanzaa was born from that ideology. This is the founder of Kwanzaa. Okay. He's the one who came up with the whole Kwanzaa ideas. or Kwanzaa ideology and Kwanzaa practices and rituals. Okay. This isn't speculation. This is real. McKinley, he stated that Kwanzaa was created, the founder of the holiday, he said that Kwanzaa was created as an alternative to Christmas because he argued that Christmas was white, European, colonial, and oppressive. I just got done telling you about how Christmas changed society's view on the human body and view on human life and created hospitals. Out of Christmas, out of the birth of Jesus, God chose human flesh, a human body to dwell among us. And there's a new respect for the human body, and it created, and by the 4th century, these early Christians started to create institutions, hospitals. Okay. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't call hospitals oppressive. Okay. But Kwanzaa was not meant to coexist with Christianity. It was meant to displace it, particularly among Black Americans. What this guy tried to do was to take away Black people from their religion. Largely, they were practicing Christianity in the 60s. They still do. African American, Black people, Christianity is the dominant religion in the United States. It was back then for Black Americans as well. But what he wanted to do was separate Black Americans from their Christian roots and force this ideology on them that was anti-Christian at its core. It's just anti-Christian. And I'll get to the tenets of this holiday and this religion, because that's really what it was. Kwanzaa is a religion. It mimics even the Hanukkah menorah, where they've got a kinara and they light the candles. But Kinley's U.S. organization was not just political. Former members describe it as like a cult. So you had to have absolute obedience to leadership. There was something called ideological purity tests. So you had to undergo testing to make sure you were ideologically pure with that religion. This is a cult. It was all about psychological control. And I'm not saying this. Former members of the U.S. organization said this. They said that they were punished for dissent and that they were psychologically controlled. Okay, so this was not a free association. People who were in the U.S. organization, they were not there of their own free will. They were psychologically controlled and physically punished. This was a cult. And here's where the story gets really dark. So stay with me. 1971, Ronald Everett McKinley, he was arrested and charged in Los Angeles with multiple felony counts, including felony assault and false imprisonment. So the victims were largely women with inside his organization, the U.S. organization. And this is just cult-like behavior, get the women to be controlled and to serve the leader at the top being McKinley. Like, this is just textbook cult behavior. So the women who were followers under his authority, they were tortured. Okay. And these are not rumors. These are not, this is not a political hit job. Okay. These are criminal acts that were proven in court. There was court testimony, and it revealed prolonged severe abuse. Okay. The women who testified against McKinley, they testified that they beat them repeatedly, that he had beat them repeatedly, that he had burned them with weapons and irons, and that they had been confined against their will, that he had used weapons against them, and he inflicted physical and psychological torment on them. Why? Because he accused them of disloyalty. He accused them of questioning his leadership. He accused these women of ideological impurity, and he framed the abuse, McKinley, as discipline. This is a cult, okay? So I want to be precise. McKinley, he was convicted in a California court. He was not acquitted. The charges weren't dropped. dropped. He was sentenced to prison for several years, and then he got out. And the conviction, like, I don't even understand. Like, how do you imprison women, burn them, physically torture them, and then you get out? I think he was actually maybe let me look that up. I think Ronald Everett McKinley was pardoned, or was not pardoned. He was released from prison in 1975. Yeah, I don't know why he was released. I would imagine that he had a life sentence for those types of crimes, being convicted of those types of crimes. But I don't know. I didn't look that up. I'd have to look that up. If somebody knows, throw it in the comment section. I'll look that up a little bit later when I take a quick break here in a minute. But I want to get to what happened, the crimes after he was released. Okay. And I guess he didn't even serve that long. So after he was released, this was softened. His crimes were softened. They were said to be personal disputes. Him and his girlfriends, like, they were personal disputes. They were controversies. The victims, they disappeared. They were forgotten. And this is historical revisionist history. This is what happened. If this had been a Christian pastor, if this had been a conservative activist, if this had been a Donald Trump, okay, or a right-wing intellectual, the crimes would have defined this guy forever. Okay, but this guy ultimately got out. He entered academia, became a professor, was rebranded as a cultural scholar, and he avoided, there were reporters who asked him after he was released about these crimes, and he avoided public discussion of the crimes. Okay, so he never renounced Kwanzaa. He never took responsibility for his crimes. And these institutions, colleges, welcomed him back after prison. Why? Because their ideology aligned with his. And like, it's so messed up. So Kwanzaa is built on, and I want to get to how it's actually celebrated, because there's 7 principles of this ideology. I'm going to get to how it's actually celebrated, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have, happy Merry Christmas Eve to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. We're going to have shows all week. But I got to take a quick break, get some water. I'm going to do some research on how he got out of prison exactly. I bet it was political. I bet there was somebody who got him out, and it was a favor to him. But I'm going to take a break. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends.
You ever tried to explain your faith to someone who doesn't get it? Like you're speaking a different language? Peter knew that tension. He told believers to live such good lives among the pagans that even if they accused them of doing wrong, they'd see their lives and end up glorifying God. Translation: let your life preach louder than your lips. It's not weakness. That's warfare. You don't always need a microphone. You need integrity. You need consistency. You need to grind with grit and grace when no one's cheering. People are watching how you handle stress, how you treat your wife, how you react when life sucker punches you. They're watching to see if your God is real, because your walk is the evidence. You don't get to control what they say, but you can live in a way that shuts lies down over time. Let your honesty wreck stereotypes. Let your discipline echo louder than their gossip. Let your kindness feel like a gut punch to a world used to selfish men. Because one day, maybe not now, maybe not soon, those same people who laughed at your faith might remember your life when they hit rock bottom. And when they do, they'll know who to call. Live like someone's eternity might depend on it, because it might. You want a pre-workout that speaks for itself? Patriot Pump doesn't need hype, just results. Clean energy, no crash, built for men who lead by example, on the platform or in the shadows. Fuels what matters. Train for legacy.
All right. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you being here. Archive this video and share it out with your kids, because your kids are going to be taught something totally different. Now, I did some research here on how he exactly got out of prison, because he was sentenced to 10 years in prison in 1971, got out in 1975. So he was sentenced to 10 years, okay, for felony assault and imprisonment. That's a very weak sentence, but whatever. Okay. Most people, if you were to commit felony assault and false imprisonment, kidnapping, essentially, you'd serve a very long time. Okay. So in 1971, and then he got out by 1975. Wow. So he only served 4 of the 10 years. So I want to give you some of the testimony. Deborah Jones, who was given the title of a Swahili African queen, she said that she and Gail Davis were whipped with an electrical cord. They were beaten with a karate baton after being ordered to remove their clothes. This is all in testimony. She testified that there was this hot iron placed inside of the mouth of Gail Davis. These were women who were part of his US organization, okay, the cult. And it was then placed on her face, and one of her big toes were actually tightened in a vice. Do you know what a vice? And then her big toe was placed in the vice and he tightened it up. Okay. So this guy, McKinley, also, according to testimony, put detergent, like laundry detergent, I'm assuming, and running hose into their mouth. They were also hit on the head with toasters. Really disgusting stuff. Okay. And this is court testimony. Somebody like this should be serving in prison today. Okay. And should be jailed. And I don't know if I think he's still alive. I think he's still like a professor. I think he's still kicking. 84 years old. Yeah. I think he's 84. I think he's, teaching at some California. I think he's still around. I mean, what? This guy should have never left the inside of a prison cell. Anyway, so how did he get out? So he petitioned several, and I guessed this. I said that it was political. So he petitioned several state officials who would support his parole. Okay, on fair sentencing grounds, and he was granted parole in 1975. He, like I said, never discussed the convictions with reporters. He's always denied any kind of involvement of torture, and he argued that the prosecution was political in nature. Folks, I mean, you've got 2 women testifying. I mean, that's huge. All right, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about how Kwanzaa is celebrated today. Kwanzaa was built on something called Ngozo Saba. Okay, so Ngozo Saba, this is the 7 principles of this ideology. It's a religion. They're mimicking Hanukkah, sort of. They light the candles on this kinara. It's kind of like a menorah, and they light a candle for unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Now, this all sounds cute and cutesy, and, these are framed as like values. But really, you break these down, like cooperative economics. This is just anti-capitalism. If you know what cooperative economics is, this is anti-capitalism. It's where everybody puts their stuff into a big pot, and one person, usually by force, decides, where that's going to be distributed, or a group of elites will decide where that stuff or the products, the services, how those will be distributed. And that's cooperative economics. It's just anti-capital. It's communism. Collective responsibility. What this does, it says that you don't have personal responsibility over your own life and your own actions. There is a collective responsibility, and that directly conflicts with what's taught in the Christian Bible. So, like I said, this is an alternative to Christmas. It's anti-Christianity. And he was very blatant about it. He said that it's an alternative to Christmas because he believed Christmas was white European. And this is anti-biblical, anti-Christian, anti-American. That's what they celebrate, okay, in Kwanzaa through Ngozi Sabah. Okay. So I want to address the lie here that Kwanzaa is African, because it's not. Swahili, that's where the word Kwanzaa comes from. It was chosen arbitrarily. Okay. Swahili, not really spoken amongst ancient African peoples. Okay. It was chosen arbitrarily, that language. And these rituals, unity, collective responsibility, corporate, cooperative economics, that stuff was not practice amongst the ancient African American peoples. Okay. And the rituals were not practiced in Africa, like the stuff that they do, the lighting of the Kinara, like that is just made up as of 1966. That was not something they did in ancient Africa or in Africa. Okay. Now these symbols here, the Kinara, it's a modern invention, and the structure here is entirely American. It was created in Los Angeles, this religion and this holiday. Okay. And Kwanzaa survives because it fits with an anti-Christian narrative and anti-Western framing, identity politics, institutional DEI ideology. It's useful. Kwanzaa is useful for the leftist politicians. But we have to ask this question out loud. Why are the women McKinley abused, never mentioned? I don't see their names anywhere. This guy just gets to live his life. He only served prison for 4 years, and he tortured women with electrical cords, karate batons. Where are their names? Where's the accountability here? Okay, they've been erased. And I think that it's so fascinating. You have the left, they're constantly championing women, survivors, accountability, unless the abuser is ideologically aligned with us and ideologically useful, where we can come in and implement our programs and shift us more towards socialism, communism. We think that his ideology is useful. We won't call him to the mat. We won't, force him to be accountable. And they just remain silent. Okay. So I find that interesting. Christmas, 2,000 years of history here. Built hospital, schools, charity out of Christmas. We have hospital, schools, charity. It's rooted in redemption, that we are redeemed through Christ. It's rooted in moral law. And Kwanzaa, it was invented in 1966. Star Trek is older or younger than Kwanzaa. It was created in 1966 by one guy. This guy is a convicted abuser, and this is protected by institutions, and it would really just gone within a week if we didn't have HR emails and Kwanzaa shoved down our throats. And I think that the fruit matters here. Look at what Christmas has produced, and look what Kwanzaa has produced. I mean, barely, maybe 1% of African Americans today celebrate Kwanzaa. Okay, so you're not obligated to affirm the lies of Kwanzaa. Facts aren't racism. I'm not being racist by calling this guy a convicted abuser. The truth is not hate. I'm not being hateful because I point out that Kwanzaa has no ties to Africa at all, and that the practices in this holiday, the rituals from this holiday were never seen in African culture. And, this is being silent about what Kwanzaa actually is not virtuous. Being silent is wrong. Okay, Kwanzaa should be under examination. We should attack Kwanzaa because we should be pursuers of honesty. And it's a made-up holiday. It's a fake holiday from a cult leader, what people would call a cult leader, Ronald Everett McKinley. And he has been rebranded and protected by the left. Okay. So I scratch Conservative Cat Show here. We scratch where others won't. Okay. Because the truth matters more than people's comfortability. Okay. So the next time your HR rep sends out an email about Kwanzaa, I encourage you, maybe don't call Kwanzaa fake and gay like I do on the show here. But bring your facts, send her the court records, send the HR rep, the facts about how this is from 1966, facts about how it was created by Ronald McKinley, the facts about how he tortured women and was convicted of that. And hell, honestly, share this episode with your HR rep or with your kids' elementary school teacher who, sends out Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Send out this episode. Subscribe if you're here right now. Subscribe. That is a huge thing because we need to get this word out. We need to get the facts out. And look, if Kwanzaa can't survive the facts, it doesn't deserve reverence. It doesn't deserve promotion, celebration. And once you tell people the facts of Kwanzaa, nobody is going to want to celebrate it. Nobody is going to even want to acknowledge it. So stay sharp, stay faithful. Don't let them gaslight you into celebrating fiction. And this has been the Conservative Cat Show. Former vice president claims she celebrates it. Love the comments. I wanted to get to some of these before I end the show. Kamala Harris. And like the thing of it is that most people don't know this. I'm willing to bet that maybe Kamala Harris doesn't even know the origins of Kwanzaa. Okay. Most people, they loosely understand that it's like a black holiday or a black Christmas. But they don't understand where it came from, how really modern this is. It's 1966. The guy who created it is still around, 84 years old. Where is he today? I don't know. I want to check that out. I think that he's okay. Yeah, he remains an activist and scholar, is currently a professor and chair of Africana Studies at California State University in Long Beach. My God, I can't even with this guy, man. Like, how'd you get out in 4 years? Who are those state officials? I need to know. Because that's disgusting. That is disgusting. Gail Davis, the Deborah Jones, their names need to be remembered because what they did in 1971 in court, their testimony, that was brave. And hell, I would rather on December 26th or January 1st, I would, be all for, hey, Deborah Jones holiday, Gail Davis holiday, because that took guts, bravery from these women to testify against this guy. All right. Smash that like button, subscribe. We will be back tomorrow. I have a few things planned for the week. I want to get to should Christians do Santa Claus in the home and the true story of Saint Nick. And then I've got, Hanukkah from the Christian perspective. So we're going to be doing a lot this week. So be sure to subscribe and don't miss a second of it. This has been the Conservative Cat Show. I love you so much. Merry Christmas.